Continue along that vein and go to Mbalenhle Mthethwa, who's live for us from the OR Tambo International Airport in Kempton Park. Mbalenhle, good afternoon. This is, we're talking disruption of hubs in the Middle East, but as far as Southern Africa is concerned, the African continent is concerned, this is one of those big hubs. Any disruption in the Middle Eastern hubs was always going to have a ripple effect at OR Tambo International Airport.
Yes, certainly. The OR Tambo International and Johannesburg, or South Africa as a whole, serves as a corridor to the rest of the world. I mean, those who are traveling from the east might actually need to come through South Africa in order to access other parts of the world, say Brazil or even the UAE, where we have heard of escalating tensions and forcing those in the aviation industry to halt any movement or any airspace movement, really causing serious disruptions for passengers who were on their way to various destinations, holiday makers, as well as those who are perhaps traveling for the intents and purposes for an interview, some to visit family, and some are just traveling as a family. Now, OR Tambo is really full today, and the international arrivals is one of those areas that is also quite packed, and it's got more people than usual, many of whom are carrying suitcases. So this could be an indication of the extent of the disruptions. Over right now, where I am standing, I'm going to step out of the shot, and I'm also going to speak to a guest who is one of the people who has been disrupted. This is the Emirates Information Center, where those who are trying to find alternative means to travel are trying to see if they cannot be accommodated on other flights, or if they cannot find perhaps accommodation here in South Africa. My guest right now is one of those people who has been in conversation with Emirates, trying to see if they cannot be accommodated with his family here in South Africa, or if they can't be put on an alternative flight. He joins me now. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. He has asked that we don't show his face on our screens. However, you will see his luggage. There are 2 trolleys full, just an indication of the fact that he is not traveling alone, and that he's traveling with family members. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to speak to us. Now, if we tell us what has happened since you left your first destination and upon arriving here in South Africa.
Okay, so we reside in Cape Town, and we took a trip on for religious purposes. So we ended up in Joburg, and then we were supposed to fly to Dubai. And so what happened was that when we were about to board our flight here in Johannesburg, we were then told that the flight is delayed first due to technical difficulties, and then we were told after that that the flight was cancelled. And then we were asked to hang around at the airport for them to give us further information as to what the move forward is going to be. So we stayed at the airport till about almost, our flight was at 1:30. We stayed here till about 6 o'clock, you know. So a couple of hours we were hanging around at the airport. And then when they didn't have any answers for us, we then decided to book ourselves in a hotel. They told us that they would reimburse our monies for the hotel and whatever we spent. But now we came to find out, just speaking to them at the information desk now, that they will not be reimbursing our money that we spent at the hotel. So we had to use basically our personal money for that. Then on the positive side, they have rebooked another flight for us. We will be flying via Ethiopian Airways to Addis Ababa, and then from there we'll be going to Jeddah then.
So it's really unfortunate that the airline has not really tried to assist passengers who have had to dig deep into their pockets, such as yourself, in order to, because of these delays and as a result of what has happened there. It is no fault of your own doing. What would you like to say to Emirates right now in regard to how you feel in terms of the fact that you've had to spend from your own pocket?
Well, it's been quite an inconvenience, and to be in a different city where you don't know the city and you don't know where to go and you know where to stay, and it's quite costly because now we have to book another hotel for another night because they're flying us out tomorrow, so we have to book an hotel again and separate food. You know, we don't know where to get food in sense of the food that we usually eat, so we're going to have to look for food that is and order out food, and that's all going to have to come from our own pockets, you know. And then we booked hotels in the country that we're going to stay at, so we're also losing that monies that we also have to pay now. And they just, you know, blanketly or bluntly said that they can't, it's not their fault, which we understand. They can't help for the war and things like that. So they should be. And the thing is, there's a whole lot of miscommunication. When we spoke to Emirates people yesterday, their representatives, they told us, you can book in a hotel, you can order food, just don't be too extravagant, we will reimburse your money. And then today, speaking to them at the information desk, they're saying something else. So the misinformation is confusing, and now it's causing, we have to take the brunt for that, you know. So that's the issue that we have at the moment.
Certainly, there is a need for better communication. And also, I think an airline or any airline should be able to have contingency measures for incidents such as these. And we will most certainly try to reach out to the airline. But right now, what happens now? How many family members are you traveling with? And what's the next step?
So we are 4 family members. And we have, like I said, they booked us another flight. The layover is quite long. From the one flight, 3 o'clock the afternoon to midnight, we have to wait in a foreign country again, where we don't know where we're going to rest or stay for that amount of time. But I think we just need to make our plan ourselves. We cannot depend on Emirates. But just a side note, if I can say that, we've heard that from Qatar, they have put their people on hotels and they have seen to their meals as well. So if Qatar can do that, I'm very surprised that Emirates cannot be more accommodating to their customers.
I think you've made quite a strong statement in that regard. Qatar Airlines has put their passengers in hotels, while Emirates has left some of their passengers stranded and trying to find alternative modes of transport in order to make it to their destinations. And it would seem as though there was the promise of them being assisted in terms of finding accommodation, or rather their accommodation in Johannesburg being paid for and then being reimbursed by the airline, and that is not happening. But I think it would be very important to just find out from the airline what contingency measures do they have in place for such. If other airlines can have strong and effective contingency measures that don't leave passengers stranded and even in a position where they are walking around with 2 trolleys full of luggage, it would be interesting to hear what they have to then say. No one ever plans for what has happened. No one has ever seen what is happening right now. What is happening in that country is unprecedented. And one thing that we all know is that these kinds of events are written about in history books, but we have seldom ever experienced them in modern day society. It is unfortunate that this is what has happened, and the disruptions have not only affected passengers, but there's also an element of a loss of life in those communities that have been been affected by the airstrikes, and those who are still living or are stuck in those communities, particularly in the countries that are affected, are living a life in fear, and it is unclear as to whether they will have enough access to food and water, and if the countries that they're in will be able to accommodate them. South Africans are stuck all around the UAE, and we know that Durka is also in the process of communicating with the embassies in those countries to ensure that those who are there are returned back to South Africa safely. But this is certainly unprecedented times, and a call for a need for better contingency measures from airlines, given the fact that no one could have possibly planned for what has happened right now. It's back to you in studio.
Mbalenhle, thank you for that. That's Mbalenhle Mthethwa out at OR Tambo International Airport. I suspect many in the airlines industry will be brushing up on those clauses, force majeure. What happens in instances where you have a contractual obligation to your passengers, but you simply can't fulfill it in the context of developments that are beyond your control. I suspect that's the realm in which we are at this moment.